Okay. We left off last week with a Rash. The Rash in Bikurim basically says that a tumtum is allowed to dress up like a woman, but not like a man. In Perek Daled Halacha Mishnah Beis, v'eino netaf u'mesaper kanoshim kloima, eino netaf kanoshim u'mesaper kanoshim, v'kolon lefi shetam echol v'shneim. They put together because there's always one reason. The derech isha la'atayv es reisha u'lechasoisai b'tzoyiv, v'ein derech ish kein derech ish l'saper v'ein derech isha l'saper ela megadel sap klilis. So a woman klilis, a woman lets her hair grow and a man cuts his hair, and the woman covers her hair and a man does. Okay. So be'inon she'inog be'atzmoi b'tispois malbushim kein kein isha shalayovo. One second. Excuse me. The call of the feet shetam echol l'shneim derech isha latayv. Yeah. Ain't derech isha zo. Yeah. And will be in a shiinok ba'atzmoi tispois malbushim kein ish shalalovoli nose im yisnai isha. So fakir adrabo. It should be like an ish and not like an isha. Shal yovo linose im yisnai isha. He won't get. So the question is, the tumtum is a suffix. So Yulachera is he shouldn't be like a woman or like a man. And if for some reason, it doesn't apply to him, so they can dress whichever he wants. So the Rash says, as he continues, he says that there's a chashash, and the whole thing is the Rabbanon. V'choshu, he says, linose yoise midrabbanon linose yoise milisa. We're more afraid that he'll get married than he will marry someone else. So it's only a chashash. So I assume, and maybe I'm wrong, I assume that the Rash holds is double poshut that a tumtum, there's no chashash of zimo because it's there's no way anything's going to happen because the tumtum, there's nothing there. So manashah, so vostut there, what does he do? So really both don't apply. So there's a drabonon that we say that he should dress like a man and act like a man, that with some reason more afraid, it's only drabonon. But what comes out in the Rash is that the chash of zimo is a chalashem in the lav, and if there's no chash of zimo, there's taka no isa, and the whole thing's a drabonon. And the truth is, he says there's a minchas chinuch that touches on something like this. In Tov Kuf Mem Gimel, Ois Beis, the Efshe the Tumtum, the Beitz of Bachutz, Verachnu Liel, Im Kein Hu Vadai Zocho, V'loikin, Im Odo Adei Isha, Ach Lefiatam de Zimo, Beitz of Bachutz doesn't help you because Loi Shaykh, the Einoi the loishno, the eno royal beer. Ach im noima mishum lesser avodah zara, then there's no difference. V'gam ayin ponim latera v'bnei atam sheniu lonu ein lonu yichoyim lipsoi din the efshet exeris akosavu v'ein oru yoidim im kein chayiv badeish. Okay, so then it's vada, he seems to say. But this whole minchas chinuch is very important in terms of the Rash, because the Rambam has two timing. The Rambam has the time of Zimo and Avodah Zarah, and we don't know, that's the reason the Torah asked it, but you don't know the option, that the possibility in order for it to be also. The Rash, I assume, is working with the possibility of Zimo, and you need the possibility of Zimo in order to be also. So then, l'cheira, the issue the Minchas Chinuch discusses should depend upon the Ram and the Rash. That's what I would suggest. Now, then he continues. And he says, the Rambam, V'halbe mas sheyusam b'tnai b'asiyas tas hatalasam. It seems the talasam has something to do with this, the Avodah Zarah, has something to do with the reason why the Torah asid big day isha leish and big day ish leisha. So, what is this talasam, whatever? So the Ram Pirush Shnayis in Avodah Zarah, Per Gimel Mishnah Aleph, Cheshvin Anshe Ho Inyan Hazeh, Shekasher Tagia Hashemesh Lemaila Mimailis Hagalgal. The Shemesh is at a certain latitude. Eze Ma'ala Shetiye Yasu Turisma Li'oisa Hamayla. They do a certain ceremony which is called Talisma. Ke'ein Hatsura Asher Tiyuchas Li'oisa Hamayla. Each Maila, each latitude, or each Maila in the rise, I'm not sure we're talking about in the in space or on the earth, whatever the milas are, v'yiru lo koichos b'mitzias b'inyonei oisei atzura v'apulas sheyuchos Allah. They have for each latitude or each meridian that the sun or the moon or the constellations or the planets are on, they have certain sulas which we must be in. And then he says, in the Pirush, and that's Avodah Zarah. V'yispalo eleho, v'yiromu b'chol eis shetagia shemesh lo'is hamayla. When the sun gets to a certain latitude, it's working on the sun. That they'll play everything out. I guess the other ones they might depend on the sun, but the sun or whatever it is, it's a question. The Avodah Zarah is based on the position of the heavenly bodies. Now, next it says, V'yoyma, this is the mitzvah. This is the epilogue of the mitzvah. I think it's Lamed Tes and Mem of Yilbsh and Lo Yilbash. V'yoyma im hoye misasik boy odom, if the Oved Avodah Zarah is an Adam, he should wear big day noshim, v'yiskashek bezohov upnimim v'adoim lehem, and he should dress like a woman. V'im hoyisa isha, and if it's a woman, she should wear armor and a sword or something which is of a clean neshek. That's a good Mephoshim say it's not dafka cherev. Now, the Rambam in the Bukhman, if I mentioned the last time, in Chelek Gimel, Perek Lamed Zayin, V'nei bi'alnu b'chiburenu agodo she'akofes pas haloish pas hazokein also v'nei shu tikun koimei avodah zara v'chulei. V'u'asiba gam kein v'omer lo yeh kli gever al isha timsa'ehu b'sefer tumtum yitzave shel yilbsh or ish beged isha tzavua k'sheyamoid b'koichav noiga. When it's on, when we're holding by Venus, then the man dresses up like a woman, and Venus is a woman. The tzuas noiga is a na'ara, and the din is that you should, I guess the din was that the avodah zarah is that he should mizdame to the noiga. And the Shalach Kodesh in Shal Oisi is Kuf Kedusha El Shabali Atzlomim Haniklim Talsam Miyachzim Lekechovim Tzuais Ad Shoim V'chulei V'Tzuas Noiga Sura Na'ale Na'ara Yofo B'choli Zohov. And I guess with a gold necklace or something like that. Whatever. So, and I assume it's the opposite in the man, and the woman dresses like a man in armor because that's what Ma'adim is. It's war. So, what I'd like to discuss now, which I think is just interesting, just this of an epilogue to this discussion. What is the relationship of the law for women of Kli Gever? Let's say, is a woman allowed to have to carry a gun? Okay, and is a woman allowed to go to war? Okay. So let's go slowly. So here he says, V'im hoyiso isha tilbash hashilion, which is armor, v'tizdayin b'charovos, and she should be armed with the kli neshek, with weapons. You look at the Nozi in the Testament Aleph, Sefer Chinuch, Tov Kuf Membeis. But you see, the question is, we're talking about kli neshek. Is the problem holding it, or is the problem wearing it? And since I would assume the lav is lo yilbash, I would assume the lav is or so silbash isha kli gever. The problem is to wear it. And it's not clear to me at all. There's a problem for women holding a weapon. The problem would be to wear it. And I would assume also from the Sifri that it's wearing dafka. The Sifri in Kiseitze, in Piska, Reish Chavov, Rebbe Lezer and Yaakov over Minayin Shlo Silbash Isha Kli Zayin V'Teitze LaMuchomo Talmuloim Lo Yiyeh Kli Gever Al Isha. So it's Lo Tilbash Isha Kli Zayin. It's not that she shouldn't be armed, but she shouldn't wear it. And if you look at the Sifri, and we'll talk about this, you get the impression for women to go to Muhammad is not the problem, but the problem is that the Isa of Kli Neshek is only Derech Muhammad. And you get the impression Sifri, if she stam is wearing Kli Neshek and not going to the Muhammad, that's the problem. Muhammad is not awesome. And Kli Neshek is not awesome. But Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov Oimer, Minayin, Shelo Tilbash Isha Kli Zayin, V'Teitze La Muhammad. Talmud Loima, Lo Yiyeh Kli Gever Al Isha. And I could imagine that the problem over here in Kli Zayin is not the beged. It's a Kli. It's according to this. It's not the beged of the ish. It's taking on the persona of an ish. It's being armed and going out to war. But if it would be just a levisha, then he wouldn't have to add the v'teitz al mechoma. That's what I would suggest. But in Targum Yonason, it's just the opposite. Because Targum Yonason is mashma that a woman not even in war, unless you assume there was a war then, I don't know, a woman just holding, I don't know, it's difficult to say, a woman just using Kli Neshek is a problem. The Targum Yonason and Shoftim, hey, Chavav, it's talking about Yael, Eishes Cheva Keni, Tafso Yael, Itas Chover, Shalmoa, the Kaimis, Mad, the Kayemes, she was Mekayim, Mad, the Ksiv, Beseif, Araisa, the Moshe. She was Mekayim, Voshteten Teira, Teres Moshe. Lo Yahavin Tikun Zain, the Geval Itza. There shouldn't be, a woman shouldn't be armed. Well, Yisakin Gever, Besukani Itza. Elohein, Yodana of the Sichsa Oshitis. She didn't take a sword, but she took a something which wasn't a weapon. The Amina, the Asvespasa, the Nafchin, the Mitba Rishian. Okay, so I would have assumed it's clear in the Sifri that the problem is only Levisha and only together going out with war. And in the Targum Yonason, it's just the opposite, that the etzim use of weapons is a problem. Now, let's see the Rambam. Perek Yud Beis Halacha Yud. Loisade ish adei ish or ish gon shetosim beroisha mitznepes oy koiva, oy shetilbash shirion ukiyetze boy, o tegalach loisho kiish. So the chayra, I would have said the problem is, according to the Rambam is just wearing the Kli Zayin. He doesn't mention anything about going to Muhammad. He doesn't talk about Kli Zayin, but wearing armor is a problem. But look what he says. V'lo yadei ish adei isha k'gon yilbsh b'godin tzvuyim b'chol izah b'mokim she'en loiv sh'noisan ha'kelim ve'em esiven oisa acholi el enoshim hakol k'mineg ha'medina. So let's read this again. You see, when he talks about, see, that's what I'm very confused about. Just one second. You see, let me go slowly. When you look over here in Halacha Yud, let's read it again from the beginning. Is he talking about, the question is he talking about Hakol K'mineg Medina both by Ish and Isha? Or only by Ish? I'll read it to you. In other words, it depends. What women do in the Medina is kaveh what an Ish is also to wear. He says, Loi Sa'ade Isha Adei Ish, or Ish, Lo Jitosim Beroisha Mitznefes, or Koiva, or Shetilvash Shirion, or Kietziboy, or Shedegalech, or Shekish. Or Yade Ish Adei Isha, Gon Yilbash Begodim Tzivonim, V'choli, Zob, B'mokim She'ein Loiv Shenoisen HaKelim, V'ein Meisimen, Oise HaCholi, Elenoshim, HaKol Kimin HaMagdina. See, only talks Ish Oda Adei Isha, V'Isha Sha'oda Adei Ish, like it. So a priori, reading the Rambam, I would have assumed that the Minig Medina is only Keveya what the Adei Isha are, and with that, the Ish is enjoined. But Adei Ish is objective, independent of time and place. That's what I was saying in Mishnah Torah. But if you look here in Sefer HaMitzvos, let's just read it. Lamites, Wazor Shuzu Meleches Beikvos HaKoifrim, B'ma Shanoshim Loivshes Big De Agvoris V'chulei, V'om Yisrael Lo Yeh Kli Gever Al Isha, V'chol Ish Niskashe B'dom B'tachshir Gvorim, HaMefusam B'oise HaMochim Shezet Achshet Miuchal L'Gvorim, Sefekes Malkus. So it means the law of Lo Yeh Kli Gever Al Isha depends upon that which is miyuchad for the Tizet Hachshem Yuchal L'Gvorim Sefekis Malkus. Then he says in Hazchora Hamashlima Arboim, Huazor Shuzu Gam Hagvorim Miladus Hadei Hanoshim Uomroi Lo Yilbash Geve Simlas Isha B'chol Geve She'odo Olovash Dovo Shu Mufusim B'Eis HaMokoim Shetzura Zu Miuchedes L'Noshim Sefik Malkus. So I could have imagined, I would have said, in the Rambam, in Sefer HaMitzvos, the idea of Minig HaMedina applies to everything. In Mishnah Torah, it's not so clear at all to me, because you read it again, he only says the idea of Mina HaMokoim only when it comes to the lav. V'lo yadei ish adei isha kagon sheyilbash begodim tzivonim b'chol izov b'mokum she'ein loivshin oisa akelim v'ein meisimen oisa yacholi elenoshim akol k'minhag medina. It doesn't say it the other way. This, I think, is a very interesting observation. See, you could have imagined in Sefer Mitzvas, l'chayra, everything depends on minhag Medina, and if women wear armor and they wear, there's no problem whatsoever. It's just the question of oisei mokum oisei man, and then l'chayra kimat to anything. If women go to army, and they do everything, there's no problem. I would have said that. Imagine that in Sefer Mitzvos, because he doesn't introduce armor as a new category. It's just an epilogue. It's a postscript to his discussion of the two lavim. However, in Mishnah Torah, you might have made a case that the idea of Malbush, Ish, is objective, and that men wear Roshim, Mitznefes, and Koiva, and Shilyon, and they cut their hair in a certain way. And a woman's not allowed to do that. And when he talks about a woman, he doesn't talk about how she cuts her hair. Excuse me, he talks about, in other words, the Isa of a man doing like a woman. It's not cutting his hair like a woman, it's only Levisha, and only depends on Medina. He says, let's read it again. Loitade Isha ade ish, kagon shetosim b'roishem mitznefes, oy koiva, o shetuba shilyon, o shetegalech ki'ish. The three things. There's certain peculiar hats, and armor, which are peculiar man's armor, and because there's no women that won't wear armor, and the way his hair is cut. When it comes to the other lav, ish adeisha, it's only about begodim or jewelry. Kagon yilbsh begodim tzivonim v'choli zov v'mokim she'ein loivshin oisa kelim. The aim may seem an oisa choli elanoshim akokim in a Medina. He doesn't talk about haircuts. He doesn't talk about hats. He only talks about the big day tzivonim and jewelry. And all the big day tzivonim and jewelry depend on minhag Medina. So I don't know. This still requires a lot of work. So maybe a woman usually lets her hair, doesn't cut her hair that much, and the tumtum vanjoigenis eno oitev ki isha. So the way they cut the hair has nothing to do with a man being like a woman, I guess. Okay, Beseda. So that is the end of this. And Mishnah Torah, I would say certainly that using a weapon is not a problem, because all he talks about is wearing things, and he talks about wearing armor. He doesn't even talk about swords. I assume, he doesn't mention it's wearing wearing a sword or wearing a gun and a holster or something like that. But if she's holding it in the hand, I don't see the problem 100%. And the Ram doesn't mention Melchom at all in Mishnah Torah, because the Isa of a woman is only wearing a hat like a man, wearing armor like a man, or cutting her hair like a man. That's what he says. That's what we discussed. And this is just the opposite of the Eben Ezra. Because comes the Eben Ezra, and he says that Kli Gever is only a marshal, and the Isa L'Noshim is to go out to Milchama. And the Kli Gever is only, the Torah has a metaphor of going out to war. The Eben Ezra, the Chof Beis Hey in Dvorim, to a Masel Yeh Kli Gever. Nismacho Ba'avur Tseis LaMilchama, because he's wondering what's the smichas apashas, the kiseitze. It's an amazing thing. He talks about also in with Aveda and Pikatina, that maybe in Milchama you don't have to worry about it. That's the chiddush or what? Yes or no? Is a nismcha ba'avur tzeis haMilchama ki ha'isha lo nibris ki im lahokim azera v'im hi teitze im anosh shel Milchama tova b'derech lidei znus. That's a toiv. Chais says the etzem idea of Milchama, but it's very clear in the Eben Ezra that these issues are not dependent upon time and place. However, in the Rambam, in Sefer Mitzvas, I can imagine one can make a case that it depends upon society, and if the society women go out to war, there's no problem. It's just an isolated woman going out to war. If only men go out to war, then it's an issue. Okay. B'mois isha teleshut. V'zeh mufus mi'oid eitz of Bali Das or Bali Das Zeis or it or Bali Inyan Hazeh, whatever that means. Okay. Say the, I guess the people who understand in Talsa. Okay. Now, next law. So I know this requires, it's not, I'm not saying halacha l'maisa or anything at all, but these diukim in Mishnah Torah and it's Sefer Mitzvos, the question, is there machlekes or not? The construction in Mishnah Torah of the minig, he only quotes minig in one case, and it's Sefer Mitzvos, he's very graphic about the issue of minig amokom, because he adds the word mufusam and the miyuchad, and he says by both of them. So l'cheira in Sefer Mitzvos is very clear, and that everything depends on minig amokum, minig azman. And as I said before, that since the discussion about Milchama and Shiryon is only a postscript, I don't think that it's cholok be'etzem yisaydino. So you could have made a case. The reason I'm talking about this, you could have made a case in that the lav because when it talks about the Isa of Ish, it says lo yilbsh. It's an Isa of Levisha and the begodim, which might have been the mode of the time that of women is. But when it comes to the Isha, the Isa of Isha, it says Kli Gever. It's Kalim, which are defined. It's not, doesn't say begodim. It's a lo yiyeh. It doesn't even talk about Levisha. it's maintaining the persona, doing things which personify an ish, and that's armor, and that's hats, and that's the type of haircut. And it's not an ish levisha. It's and not an ish levisha. That would be very interesting. Also, see the two issues you have to ask yourself: are the lavim chalukim? You don't get that impression at all in Minyan Mitzvahs. You get the impression it's almost like a symmetry. And everything applies here and everything applies there. In Mishnah Torah, in the Psukim, you could have imagined there's no symmetry. And in Mishnah Torah, this idea that he might not apply minig to be matir, big day ish, liish, and a big day armor or something like that, or whatever they happen to be, is a very interesting issue. And the kalim, by definition, are defined as kli geva. So I'm confused about this. The truth is, the Ibn Ezra makes a big deal about this, and certainly not more so the Tziv claims it works both on both. There's an Isa Levisha and Isa having the Psana. I'm not sure if it's there, how it works exactly, with the Toev, you look in the Hamikdava, but I'm not sure what you see here. But in the Rambam, I'm very confused. In Sefer Mitzvos, I know the symmetry. In Mishnah Torah, I'm nervous that there may not be symmetry and that the heter minig amoka might not apply to a woman dressing with something which might be the persona of man going out for war, or the persona of the way a man normally dresses. Okay, but say it. Now, next, there's a new lav, another lav. 41. HaMitzvos ha'achas ve'arboim. He shizhilnu me'rishoim bigufeinu. What does that mean? On our bodies? We're putting on the nails is a problem. Putting on teeth. What does gufeinu mean? B'minei tzvoim, in various colors. Chol, blue, virduit. I don't know what that is exactly. In Kapach, Shezhinu milushoim gufeinu b'mini hakachol vasikro. It's a red type of thing. V'zulosam kederch sho'isim oivdei avodah zarah. Now here, I just want to tell you something that we'll see could be going on everything, just before we even talk about things. The Rambam, I'm going out of order because you see he's making a statement. If you look at mitzvah, sholosh v'arboim, Hishis Hiru Mahavir Sar Satzodim on the Pas Roish, Guamo Yisale Loisakifu Pas Roishchem. והסחורה מזה, גם כן, כדי שלא נזדמה לעובדי עבודה זרה. כי כן, היו עושים כימי עבודה זרה. So the Isa of doing, dressing, or being like the Oivdei Avodah Zarah, even though you're not being Oivdei Avodah Zarah b'chlal. Now, this word, these two words, gam kein or gam, whichever you have in the translation, means that the lav before, or at least the lav before this, also is an Isa of Lizdamos L'goyim. Correct? Because you can't say gam kein unless you're going on something before. You can't have it also, right? Okay. Now, so I want to just ask you, how far does this go back? Okay. So go back. That's 43, right? Now 42. He says, "Levush beged olug b'tzemu pishtim kamo shohoyu leivshim koimrei avodah zarah b'ois azman." So Isa is damnois to Oivdei Avodah Zarah b'ois azman, right? That's the gam kein, correct? That's an open and shut case. So now you go back to the Isa Srita of the Isa of tattooing service ka'kע, kmo sheyasu Oivdei Avodah Zarah. So it's also lizdamos, okay? Then, so it goes back certainly on the two before. And I can imagine also, once the Rambam says, and especially if you open up now, the Minyan HaKotze, Lo yisaseh Minyan HaKotze mem, shelo yadehu ish adei isho, shenem lo yilbash geves simlas isho, mipnei shezeh hoya minig Oivdei Avodah Zarah, v'chein mefurish b'sifrei avodos. State mefurish in the sifrei avodos from the goyim, and that's the Minyan HaKotze. Okay, so it means lizdamos to Oivdei Avodah Zarah. So it means then lamites mem aleph, mem beis, mem gimel, and mem daled are an Isa lizdamos Oivdei Avodah Zarah. And just with the word, and what ticked me off about this, you see, it's pretty clear anyway without this, because why does he tell you that the goyim were doing this? That's part of the law, okay? Okay. So you see, then you see, there's a very important observation over here. See, this is really confusing. And I'll explain to you why it's confusing, okay? You see, is the Isa because people dressing up like this might be Oivdei Avodah Zarah, dressing up like Venus or like Mars or something like that, or it's an Isa lizdamos to Oivdei Avodah Zarah. Now let's read it again, because the da in mitzvah mem, in azhor mem, the da shamais azeh kloima shanoshim oidos adoy agborim or agborim adei noshim yesh shu naase leor atvoim l'shchisus mipnei kefi shadov mufusam etzel amen. Because why? It's not just to be like them. It's nothing to do with dressing like with the Zohar, because the Torah says to'eva, because this brings to the to'eva. Okay. V'yesh shenaase lemini avodah Zohar k'fi shehu mefurish b'svom yuchodim lekach ופעמים רבויס שמסנים בעשייס מיקסס הקמאויס ואומרים שאם הויו המסעסק בכך איש שילבש בגדי נושים ויסקשת מזוב ומגלס גייץ בהם ומויס אישה וכולי וזה מפוס מאוד עצה בעליין הזה עצמו והוילך excuse me so the question is what happened by Avodah Zarah? He's going to be over Avodah Zarah. He's dressing like Avodah Zarah. The To'eva is because it might be the Zima and the Avodah Zarah is L'zdamo Islam, or he's actually being over Avodah Zarah. And this is very confusing. See, this is why you look now at the Mo Nevuchim, and you see, if you look at the Nevuchim, in Chelek Gimel, Perek Lamed Zayin, he puts them all together. In the Bukhar, I assume it's all the same. V'nei be'alnu b'chibureinu agadol sha'kofes pas alosh u'pas zokon also v'nei shu tikun koimei avodah zarah. V'hu asibo gam ken I'm skipping ken b'yom lo yeh kli gever al isha timseinu b'sefer tumtum yitzav yilbsh al ish beged isha tzavur k'she'amot b'kochav noiga. So you couldn't have a dimion if one is to be like a goy and the other is to be avodah zarah. There's no dimion. Buadin buasiba, and he does the same thing. You'll notice in the in Mo Nevuchim, he does it. You see, in Mo Nevuchim, he doesn't quote Kesevis Kaka, okay. But he does quote Shatnis. He says, where is it? Yeah, he be'alnu. V'chvir ha'golish ha'kofes pas ogoish, pas ha'zochen, also b'nei shetikin avod koime avodah zarah. Hu asiba gam atam li'iso shatnis. Ki chen hoye tikun hakoimim gam kein hoye mikapsin bein atzuos ubali chaim v'levush echod hoye choisim echod min hamoitzeis biyodoi min hamoitzim biyodoi v'tim sezeh kosev v'sifreim. So you have all of them together: the kli gever, the kli isha, shatnis, and akofes halosh. And in Mo Nevuchim, it's clear that it's all the same. But Mo Nevuchim does not put service kaka in the discussion over here, if I'm not mistaken. So to explain the point over here, you see, you have the problem of Toeva. Okay, so I thought the Toeva is in the Rambam, in Kli Gever and Kli Ish and Simlas Isha is the problem that it's maybe Toeva, it's maybe Tezimo, and it's maybe Avodah Zarah. But then you can't put it together with the rest of the things later. And then the Gam Kain only goes back to service Kaka, okay? In Mo Nevuchim, you get the impression that he's putting it together. And then I'm very confused about how you learn the Toeva then. That's all, that's the whole point. In here, you could have imagined, because he doesn't mention Zima in Mo Nevuchim. In here, you could have said the beginning, it's clear that it's maybe Lidei Zima, but what happens to the Avodah Zarah? It's just that it's a Malbush, and that's the way they dress, and it's not doing avodah zarah, that I'll leave to you. But those are the problems. Okay, now let's get back to service copy. Now, like this, it says Mirishoim begufenu. So what's gufenu? So let's now see. The Rambam in Hilchos Avodah Zarah seems to say gufenu is besorenu. And I'll read to you in Perek Yud Beis Halacha Yud Aleph of Avodah Zarah Kesagoyim. See, also, Chukas Hagoyim and Hilchos Chukas Hagoyim, right? The way he puts it in the last two prokim, I would say Chukas Hagoyim is more daima to do like the Goyim and to be daima, lizdamois. And I would assume that would also go on begodim. Just aside, and just please don't quote me. See, I can imagine that that following fashion could be a problem if the fashion trends are set by goyim. So that's what it is. But before I would say something, but I like to think about it more seriously. But as the Rav used to say in Flug, there might be an issue over here. Okay. He she'esinu v'shoim begufenu. So the means the Ram says ksevis ka'kע mu b'teira. He she'yisroit al besoroi v'yamale mokoi masrita kachol odio or shatzivoin emoishim. So it's nothing to do with nails. So I could imagine nails nothing to do because nails constantly change, okay? And sar also constantly change. But teeth, wherever there's a bossa, whenever there's a dim bossa, teeth. And that's why, for example, tumas mes, the bossa and siponayim is only chibure mes, but it's not metame like a mes. It's only chibur. So I don't know. I would assume the Isa is only on Besola. And the truth is, I think the word bossa is misleading. I think it's more like Rashi. It's not the bossa. It's on the bossa under the skin. Because there's no skin over it. You have not. And I assume that he may have that inside because in Perek Yud Beis is service ka'kע b'teira which yisrat al besoroi v'yamale. So it means, I think what it means, yisrat al besoroi, is that the srita has to reach the bossa and go below the. I'm not sure, I haven't taken a course in tattooing, but I assume it means that it has to go to the bossa below the subcutaneous, whatever that is, okay? And then he says, v'yamale moko masrita kachol with glue, odio with ink, or shatzivon and but you can't be mamale unless there's ore surrounding it. So you need the ore to hold it, and the bossa is the base that it's above. It goes to the muscles. That's what I would assume is going on here. But you'd have to check this out with a tattoo expert, unless they do it differently. I have no clue. Okay. Now, interesting over here. is that according to Rash, the Rambam, you start with the Srita, and to get through the ore to the bossa, and then you fill up with the ink, or whatever you're filling up with afterwards. Correct? That's the Seder. Rashi in Makis is just the opposite. Ksevas Ca'cà, Chaysev Tchila al Besoroi, Besam or Besikra, V'achkach Bekaka, Habossa B'machat or Besakin, V'nichas Atzeva, Bein Ha'ol Abossa. He puts the Tzeva on and then cuts. And according to the Rambam, he cuts and then puts the Tzeva. Okay? I'm not sure if there's anything to this, it looks like, wow, Rashi, but, he doesn't make a big deal over here about anything one way or the other. And I'm not sure if it makes a difference. The Rambam clearly in Mishnah Torah puts Ksevas Ca'cà together with Nizdamois Lagoyim. Because in Perek Yud Beis, Halacha Yud Aleph, Ksevas Ca'cà Amur B'Torah, Hu V'chulei, which we read already, Hu Minhag Hagoyim, Sh'roish Matzav V'Dezorah, Kloima, Shu Eved Mocho Lo, Umur Shel Avoidasa. Okay, but the Ksevas Ca'cà doesn't do that. He just does the Ksevas Ca'cà. So it's L'zdamas L'goyim to have tattoos. And what's happening over here, he's learning this from Divrei Rab Shimon in the Mishnah that the Tanakama agrees, but just says you don't need it. Look at the Mishnah in Makis, Perek Gimel Mishnah Vov, HaKrisa Ksevas Ca'cà, Kosav Kika Kosav Eino Chayiv Ad Sheyichtov V'Kakeyev B'Dioi U'B'Kachol B'Chol Dov V'Shuloishet Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Shimon Oimer Eino Chayiv Ad Sheyichtov Shem B'Shem Shenema Ksevas Ca'cà Lo Yisitnu Bochem Ani Hashem. So what's a Shem B'Shem? So the Rambam Pirush Mishnah Rabbi Shimon Oimer Eino Chayiv Sheyichtov Shem Avodah Zarah Al Besoroi Sha'oi Omer Hashem B'Oisei HaMitzvah Ani Hashem Ki Lo Omer Al Tishatef Imi V'Al Tikrav Es Atzmocho L'Zulosi Zeo Kavanosoi V'Eino Aloch. So they like the Shem Avodah Zarah, and that's what he's writing over here. So the Rambam, we don't pass the Reb Shimon. But that's the chefs of the Isa, or that would the Zohar do it. And therefore we can't misdamit to them, we can't do a tattoo under any circumstances. I think that's what he's saying. And that's what he's saying over here. We'll see this kavotim are. So, but the Nizirei Mitzrayim, we'll have to see about them. The Ram talks about them in, I think, in Nevuchim, but I'm very confused about them because Pashas is Kavotim are clearly over there with the Zohar. Correct? So what I'm going to do for you next week, I'll start with that, I just hope, is the Ram Pirush Shnayis. It talks about Koiftim, Kavotim, who are involved in Avodas Hashem. Just it becomes very confusing. I'm a little bit confused. And have a nice week. Hatzlocha Rabba.